all for one. You know that phrase. As children, we were taught it was the pinnacle of virtue. We were told that if you find a loyal group of friends, if you find your musketeers, you'll never be defeated. We grew up with this lie. We believed that friendship was a shield that would protect us from all evil. But there's something you weren't told. Alexandre Dumas didn't actually write an epic of heroism. He left a warning letter from 400 years ago about how dark, how selfish, and how cowardly the human soul can be. We simply forgot to read that letter. What we find when we turn the pages is not brotherhood. There we find four broken men who cover each other's crimes, who hide murder behind a mask of honor, and who feed on violence. What you thought was D'Artagnan's courage was actually pure ambition. What you thought was Athos's noble silence was a confession in a more whispered, intimate tone. Welcome to Daily Books, the Museum of Lies. Here, we don't just read books. Here, we perform an autopsy on the human soul, the disturbing truth that authors hide between the lines. Today, we will judge your childhood heroes. Today, we will talk not about D'Artagnan, but about toxic ambition. Today, we will examine not friendship, but complicity. If you have people in your life who say, "We are family," but slowly consume you, if loyalty requires you to silence your conscience, when this video ends, you will never look at them the same way again. If you are ready, enter through the door, and please don't make any noise. The souls inside are restless.
D'Artagnan, that young, brave, romantic hero in our minds. That's how we remember him, isn't it? But when you actually read the book, a completely different profile emerges. D'Artagnan is an 18-year-old boy with no money in his pocket, but who wants to devour the world. Coming from Gascony to Paris, he has no intention of doing good or upholding justice. He has only one goal: to wear the king's uniform. That is status. That is power. Let's translate this to the modern world. D'Artagnan is that ambitious intern in a large plaza, that hungry young man who will do anything to rise, who will crush his colleagues to impress his boss, who is ready to sell his moral compass for a title. His courage comes not from virtue, but from a desire to be seen. Think of his first hour in Paris. Before even dismounting from his horse, he gets into fights with three different men: Athos, Porthos, and Aramis. He doesn't know any of them. He doesn't know who any of them are. He's only bumped shoulders with them or caught a hostile glance from them, and instantly he challenges them to a duel to the death. Is this courage, or is it a pathological inferiority complex? Why would a man be so eager to kill people he doesn't know simply to prove he's someone? Dumas shows us this. For D'Artagnan, violence is a social stepping stone. He believes that the faster he draws his sword, the more respect he will receive. And, unfortunately, he's right. But the real tragedy begins when the duels are canceled. Do these three legendary musketeers punish this insolent boy? No. They take him into their ranks. They embrace him. Do you know why? Because unhappiness always seeks fresh blood. Athos, Porthos, and Aramis, from the outside, are glorious soldiers, but when you look closely, they are men who have lost their connection to life, exhausted. These men with no future see in D'Artagnan's blind energy the youth they themselves have lost, and they begin to poison him. This is not a story of friendship. This is a story of gang formation. And like any gang, the Musketeers have only one rule. Anyone who isn't one of us is an enemy. The Cardinal's guards, the innkeepers, the debtors, the women, all are pawns that can be used to satisfy the egos of these four men. Please look at Porthos. Forget the funny, fat, kind-hearted man you see in the movies. Where does Porthos in the book get the money for his uniform and weapons? From the king? No, the salaries aren't enough. From working? Never. That wouldn't be fitting for nobility. Porthos seduces the wife of an old married lawyer. He plays with her feelings. He manipulates her. And with the money the woman stole from her husband, she buys herself a new sword. Dumas tells us this as a comic element, but when you look at it through the glasses of 2026, is what you see a hero or a parasitic tyrant acting like a gigolo? These men, they gamble, they get drunk, they disturb the peace of the city. They are constantly in debt and resort to violence to avoid paying it. But as long as they wear that blue cape, that team's musketeer uniform, everything is permissible. Very slowly, emphatically, this is the dangerous truth Dumas whispers to us. The uniform silences conscience. When you are part of a group, your individual morality melts away and disappears. D'Artagnan entered Paris as an innocent child, but when he entered this brotherhood machine, he too, like the others, began to transform into a monster.
Now ask yourself, at your workplace, at school, or in your social circle, that cool group that takes you in, do they really like you? Or are they just looking for someone to share their crimes with? Because D'Artagnan sold his soul, and all he got in return was a hat. And now, let's look at the darkest corner of the room, at the far end of the table. Athos, the father of the group, noble, wise, and terrifyingly silent. Everyone loves him. D'Artagnan adores him because Athos is the epitome of perfect masculinity. He never complains, he never shows his emotions, and he never is sober. If modern psychology were to examine him, the diagnosis would be clear: severe alcoholism and post-traumatic stress disorder. Athos doesn't drink to drink, he drinks to forget. To forget what? A war? A lost love? No, he's trying to forget a murder. Let's go to that scene in the book that you're never shown in the movies. Before becoming the musketeer, Athos was a powerful nobleman named Comte de la Fère. He falls in love with a young and beautiful woman. He marries her. But one day, during a hunt, his wife falls from her horse and faints. When Athos loosens her clothes to allow her to breathe, he sees that mark on her shoulder, the lily, fleur-de-lis, the royal mark on thieves and criminals. What would you expect at this point? What does a man in love do? Does he wake his wife and ask, "What is this?" Does he listen to her? Does he try to understand her? In a whisper, rough tone, Athos doesn't utter a single word. While his wife is still unconscious, he ties her hands. He hangs his own wife from a tree nearby, and he turns and walks away. He doesn't even check her pulse to make sure she's dead. He just hangs her and walks away, believing he's delivered justice. That's Athos's nobility. A woman's past can't be more tainted than a man's honor. For him, this isn't murder, it's a cleansing. Do you know what's most terrifying? When Athos tells this story to D'Artagnan, D'Artagnan isn't horrified. He doesn't report his friend to the police. He doesn't call him a monster. He just listens, and he believes Athos is right. This is where the lie of one for all collapses.
This oath wasn't sworn to protect the innocent. This oath was sworn to cover up each other's crimes. Athos's silence isn't wisdom. That silence is guilt. That silence is a wall built to drown out the sound of a woman's last breath. Look around you today. Pay attention to those strong, quiet, cool men. Those men who don't show their emotions, who don't talk about their past, who just drink and stay silent. Perhaps that mystery you admire is just unprocessed trauma. Perhaps that silence is the gate to a graveyard within. Athos teaches us this. The most dangerous monsters are not those with claws. The most dangerous monsters are those who use the word honor the most.
And now, we come to the story's scapegoat, Milady de Winter, one of the most misunderstood, hated, and slandered characters in literary history. Dumas, through his narrators, imprints an idea on our minds. This woman is a devil. This woman is a sorceress. This woman is the earthly shadow of pure evil. D'Artagnan fears her because he cannot control her. Athos despises her because she reminds him of his own sins. But we, as the Daily Books community, don't look at the shop window the author shows us. We go to the back of the shop, to that dark storage room. Let's take off that monster mask and look at the truth beneath. Who is Milady? She is a master of survival who refuses to play by men's rules in a man's world. She is an anomaly who dares to determine her own destiny in an age where chastity is required, and society never forgives anomalies. Her story didn't begin in a palace. Her story began on a gallows. When she was just a young girl, the man she loved, Athos, the moment he saw the mark on her shoulder, without asking a single question, he hanged her from a tree in the forest. With his own hands, he left her there, swaying in the wind, suffocating, to die. But she didn't die. The rope snapped, or perhaps her hatred kept her alive. She emerged from the mud, a purple mark on her throat and a cold vow of revenge in her heart. Now I ask you, how can a woman hanged by her own husband trust the world? Can a woman maintain her innocence when she learns that the men who were supposed to protect her are actually her executioners? Milady's evil wasn't innate. That evil was woven, noose by noose, around Milady's throat by Athos's noble hands. She is not a monster. She is a product of male violence. Why do the Musketeers despise her so much? Is it because of her methods? When D'Artagnan stabs someone with a sword, it's heroism. When Porthos kills someone in a duel, it's honor. But when Milady uses poison because she lacks physical strength, it's cowardice. Why? Because the sword is the man's instrument. Poison is the woman's weapon. Men love enemies they can draw their swords against because they know they will win the game. But what they cannot see, that silent death in the chalice, they are terrified. Milady does not respect their theater of manliness. She fights to win the battle, not to follow the rules. And that is why these four men, these four brave soldiers, mobilize the entire army to capture a single woman. They don't hate her, they fear her, because Milady is the only mirror that exposes their hypocrisy. And the inevitable end, that famous trial scene at the end of the book. Imagine it not as a scene from a movie, but as a documentary reality. Midnight, a dark, stormy riverbank. Rain is pouring. 4 armed, armored, battle-hardened soldiers. Beside them, a professional executioner. And before them, kneeling in the mud, an unarmed, lone woman. They called it a trial. They called it justice. Yet there was no judge,
No jury, no right to defense. D'Artagnan, Athos, Porthos, and Aramis, they were both prosecutor, judge, and witness. Her ex-husband Athos judged her. Her rejected lover D'Artagnan accused her. This was not the administration of justice. This was an organized murder. This was a street gang eliminating someone who said no to them. When the executioner raised his sword, Milady did not beg. At that moment, she understood that there was no justice for women in this world, only the mercy of men, and that too had long since run out. The sword fell, and those heroic musketeers breathed a sigh of relief as they watched a woman's head being cut off. Why? Not because the danger had passed, but because they had regained control, because they had buried that terrible truth hidden deep within their subconscious, beneath the earth. History books tell us the musketeers won, but the daily books tells you the truth. It wasn't just Milady who died on the riverbank that night. That night, D'Artagnan's innocence died. That night, the legend of chivalry drowned in the muddy water. If 4 men unite to kill a woman, there is no heroism there. There is only a bloody confession of helplessness. Will you still call them musketeers, or will you see what they are, the killers? This scene is not where the book ends. This scene is where humanity ends.
What happened after Milady's execution? Books usually point to a happy ending here, don't they? The Wicked Witch is dead, hooray for the heroes. But Dumas, with his brilliant pen, doesn't stop there. On the contrary, he plunges the knife to the bone. When D'Artagnan returns to Paris, Cardinal Richelieu summons him. The man he considers his enemy hands him a piece of paper. It's a blank lieutenant's certificate. No name is written on it. Write whatever name you want, says the cardinal. Now the power is yours. D'Artagnan takes the paper and runs to his friends. He gives it to Athos. This is your right, he says. Athos, with his empty, dead gaze, pushes the paper away. It's too late for me, he says. There's no rank left for me in this world. He gives it to Porthos. Porthos refuses, saying, I've found a rich widow. I'm getting married. He gives it to Aramis. Aramis says, I am withdrawing from the world. I will become a priest. And D'Artagnan is left all alone in that vast room with the greatest power in the world in his hands. At that moment, he understands that while climbing to the summit, he has broken every branch he clung to. At that moment, he understands that what he has gained is not a rank, but immense solitude. This is the terrible paradox of success. When you reach the very top, there is no one left to stand by your side, because you have sacrificed them all to get there. Closing this novel, Dumas gives us one last lesson. Actually, there was never such a thing as the Three Musketeers. There are 4 unhappy, 4 broken, 4 lost men struggling to survive by wounding each other. When they said one for all, they actually meant none of us are for ourselves. To escape their individual responsibilities, they hid behind that abstract monster called the group. Look at the world of 2026 today. Look at corporations, political parties, fanatical groups. Is what you see loyalty or collective narcissism? Is what you see friendship or complicity? Dumas wrote this book in 1844, but it's as if he's reading today's headlines. He tells us, uniforms change, swords are replaced by signatures, but the dark hunger of the human soul never changes. If belonging forces you to abandon your conscience, it's not friendship, it's bondage. True freedom is the courage to take off that cloak and say, I am not complicit in this crime. Today, at the Daily Books Museum, we shattered the brightest display case of your childhood, and we revealed the rusty, bloody truth behind it. Perhaps you were saddened, perhaps you were angry, But remember, healing only begins when the lies end. We are not just reading books here. We are awakening from those sweet fairy tales that numb our minds. If you're tired of the noise of the crowd, if you're weary of thinking like everyone else, you're in the right place. This channel is a refuge for those who seek depth, not numbers. Next week, we'll discuss another legend, the Count of Monte Cristo, and the poisonous sweetness of revenge. Until then, choose your musketeers wisely, and most importantly, when you look in the mirror, make sure you see a person, not a uniform. I'm Fatih. This is Daily Books. Keep thinking.